broad area, that is called abstract vector spaces. So we will today learn the abstract definition of vector space, and then we will also see some examples of vector spaces and not the vector spaces. Okay, so let me share my slide today. So this is the slide. Fine. Yeah. Yes, right. So let me off this one. Okay. That's this. Okay. So yeah, fine. Okay, good. So first of all, we will see here example. This is an exercise from your book, Friedberg and Spence. So the book Linear Algebra, right? So I hope you know that book. It is with you. So there is a problem. I think it is question number 7. The diagonals of a parallelogram bisect each other. You know this, okay? So with the help of vectors, what you learned yesterday or the previous lecture, you will see how to prove that the diagonals of a parallelogram bisect each other. Meaning is, suppose this OPRQ is a parallelogram, and these are the diagonals. PQ and OR are the diagonals, and S is their intersection point. Then we have to prove that S is the midpoint of OR and S is the midpoint of PQ. That means these two diagonals PQ and OR bisect each other at the point S. Okay. So how to prove this? So let us suppose that the point P and point Q have the position vectors U and V. So clearly, what about OR? Then by parallelogram law, OR is a vector, is the resultant vector, which is the sum of these two, U and V, right? This is the vector OP plus PQ. OP plus PR is OR by triangle rule. Or just you follow the parallelogram rule. Means the sum of the vector U plus V will be the diagonal, that diagonal represented by that diagonal which passes through the point where the vector U and V are acting. Okay. So that's why this OR is the resultant vector of sum of these two vectors U and V. Okay. Now, because the direction of OS vector is the same as the direction of OR, right? But the only difference is their magnitude. Of course, from this picture it is clear OS is in magnitude, OS is smaller than OR, right? So there is an appropriate T we can take. If it is a midpoint, then 1 by 2. If it is 1/4, then it is T is equal to 1 by 4, and so on. So we can choose appropriate T so that we can write the vector OS is T times OR vector, right? That is, what is OR? OR is U plus V. So OS vector is given by T times U plus V. This is the one. Now you realize this, since the point S is lies on the line PQ, is not it? Of course, the line segment PQ, but you can extend PQ. So actually this point S lies on the line passing through P and Q. And already you know what is the equation of a line passing through 2 points P and Q. So by that rule, OS vector. So when we write the equation of a line means we are giving formula for the position vector of any point on the line. So S is a point on the line joining PQ, passing through PQ. So what is the position vector of S? That is OS is equal to the vector U plus some scalar R times V minus U. So you remember this formula, I think. Okay. So this formula you remember, is not it? Okay. So already you know this one. Okay. Okay. So already you know this formula. Right. But from 1 and 2, what do you see? You see that this left hand side vector is same. So the right hand side vector must also be same. So from 1 and 2 we have t times u plus v is equal to u plus r v minus u. Simplifying this, you have t plus r minus 1 times u plus t minus r times v, and that is the zero vector. That is the zero vector. Now, if you see this picture, because you are forming a parallelogram, so that means u and v are not parallel as depicted in this picture. So because the vectors u and v are not parallel, what is the possibility? The only possibility is that this term is 0 and this term is 0. Because you see, if u and v are not 0, then their sum is not 0. Or their scalar sum is not 0. That means multiplying something, some scalar by u, then multiplying by some scalar to v, then adding, it will result and will not be 0. Because suppose you are taking here the vector, then you are taking here the vector. Then the sum will be again given by the parallelogram. So this will be the vector and this vector is not 0. Right? So what is the possibility? Possibility is if the sum of these two vectors with scalar multiplication to u and scalar multiplication to v gives you 0 vector, what is the possibility? Possibility is this quantity is 0 and this scalar is 0. So both the scalars must be 0. So because u and v are not parallel, the only possibility is t plus r minus 1 is 0 and t minus r 0. And simplifying gives you t is equal to r is equal to half. And t is equal to half means OS vector is u plus v by 2. That is OR by 2. So what you proved? You proved that S is the midpoint of OR. Similarly, you can prove that this S is a midpoint of PQ. So we have done it. So thus diagonal PQ bisect diagonal OR at S and bisymmetry diagonal OR bisect the diagonal PQ at S. Hence we have proved the diagonals of a parallelogram bisect each other. Okay. So I hope it is clear to everyone. Is not it? Okay. Okay, good. Okay, so let us go ahead. So this one. Okay, let us already I talked about the parallel vectors. So how you realize what is the parallel vectors? You know very well. These type of vectors. This vector ux and this vector y having the same direction. They are different in magnitude, but they are parallel, right? Similarly, this vector x and this vector y different in magnitude and opposite to the direction. So this vector and this vector are parallel vectors. So geometrically, this is the idea, right? So mathematically, how will you write? That means x is parallel to y if you can write y is equal to t times x. So from this picture, it is clear that y is equal to t times x for appropriate t. If y is bigger than x, then t will be bigger than 1. Of course, t is bigger than or equal to 0. Why? Because the direction is same. Similarly, here the vector x and here the vector y. In magnitude, y is bigger, but just reverse to the direction of x. So y is equal to tx. So this is the mathematical terminology, mathematical formulation of the geometric formulation. So this is the geometric idea. What is the meaning of parallel vectors? And this is the mathematical formulation. So in mathematics, by the formula, you can say everything, right? So y is equal to tx, that means y and x are parallel. If t is positive, that is non-negative, then they are having the same direction. Otherwise, negative means they are having the opposite direction. So I hope the parallel vectors you have understood. Fine. Okay. Now let us come to our abstractization. So the already you see the set of all vectors in the plane, that is in the R2 are in the space R, that means R3, 3 dimension. They satisfy, the vectors satisfy certain axioms, certain properties with respect to the usual addition of vectors and with respect to scalar multiplication, right? So we are going to axiomatize this in the abstract form. Means what do you mean by the vector space in general? Okay. Before that, what is R? What is the algebraic structure of R? Right? Here, we say that V is a vector space over R, right? So this is nothing but, we have seen that V is the set of all vectors in the plane R2 satisfies certain properties with respect to addition of vectors and scalar multiplication. We say that V is a vector space over R. So what is R? What is the algebraic structure of R? So you see R plus is a group, R dot is semi-group, and with respect to there is unity element in R, and commutative law also holds, and the distributive law. So that multiplication distributes over addition. So these are the usual properties of the field R. That is the definition field. So okay, so what is the abstract definition of a field? So any non-empty set F is said to be a field if in F there are defined two operations. When we say that in F there are defined two operations, that means we are having mappings in F. Means for certain class of elements, certain elements to certain elements. Means suppose a subset of S. Okay. So later on we will see in the detail. Don't go into the technicality. Just remember, a non-empty set F is said to be a field if in F there are defined two operations. One is called plus and another one is called dot, called addition and multiplication respectively, such that whatever A, B, C are you taking in F, the A plus B must be in F. What I said? This is an operation, means you can see plus as a mapping from F cross F to F. So this axiom is called closure axiom. So whatever the element you take from F, A plus B must be in F. Second one is called associative law. That means if you don't change its order, then you can combine any two, right? That is A plus B plus C is the same as A plus B plus C. This is called associative law. Third one is called existence of identity. There is an element 0 in F such that A plus 0 is A is equal to 0 plus A for every A in R. Fourth one is called existence of inverse with respect to the operation of plus, that is addition. So for every A in R, there is an element minus A in R such that A plus minus A is equal to 0 is equal to minus A plus A. And the last one, fifth, is A plus B is B plus A. So from F1 to F5, this is the properties of an abelian group. That's in F plus is an abelian group. And with respect to multiplication, again F is closed. F is closed with respect to multiplication. That means dot is a mapping from F cross F. Dot is a mapping from F cross F to F. F cross F to F. Okay. So this is actually a mapping, and what it does, it just associate the element A comma B, right, to just A into B. So this converts into A to B. A, and just you put here dot or don't put dot. So later on we will skip this dot for the simplicity. Okay. So this dot is also a mapping, right? A dot B belongs to F means this dot is a mapping from F cross F to F. So in some books you will find these two and these are skipped and just written that this plus is a mapping from F cross F to F and dot is a mapping from F cross F, such that these conditions are satisfied. So they don't write the closure axiom with respect to addition and multiplication. Anyway, I have written here in F. In F means some of the elements of F may be skipped, right? So that's why this is more appropriate to understand. And always you should check the closure axioms with respect to addition and multiplication. Okay, so let us come to the definition. Another one is called associative rule. That is, if the order is not changing, then you can group any two elements together. That is, A dot B dot C is the same as A dot B dot C. There exists an identity element with respect to multiplication that is denoted as 1. This one is not the usual one real number. It may be anything. Okay. Such that 1 dot A is equal to A dot 1. Here 1 is just a symbol. It is not the usual one. It is not the one real number. It is just symbol because we are writing one like this. So we can understand, okay, 1. No, this is not usual one. Okay. For R it is 1, of course. For C it is 1, of course. For Q it is 1, right? Now, for each non-zero A in F, there is an element A inverse, denoted as A inverse, such that A inverse gives you the identity. So this is the concept of existence of inverse with respect to multiplication. And the last, this F10 is called commutative law with respect to multiplication. And these two properties are said to be, are called distributive law. The first one, 11th one, is called the left distributive law. That is the, here multiplication distributes over addition from left. And in 12, A plus B dot C is A dot C plus B dot C. So here the multiplication distributes over addition from right. So that's why it is called right distributive law. So in nutshell, you can say, in short, a non-empty set with at least two elements, of course, because 0 and 1 you have seen here. 1 and this 0 must be different. Okay. With at least two elements, F is said to be a field if there are defined two operations, plus and dot in F, such that F plus is an abelian group, excluding here the 0 vector, right? F minus 0. Okay. So F minus 0 with respect to multiplication is an abelian group. And of course, A dot B belongs to F for every A, B belongs to F. Because excluding 0, we are not defining the A into 0 or 0 into A. So this must also be included. And the multiplication is distributive over addition. So in short, you can remember F is a group, F is a field, F number 1, that is abelian group with respect to addition. Excluding 0, it is again abelian group with respect to multiplication. And two distributive laws holds, that is multiplication distributes over addition from left and from right. And this, that is A dot B belongs to F, that is F is closed with respect to scalar multiplication, with respect to multiplication. Okay, so these are the usual examples. R plus dot, that is R with usual addition of real number and usual multiplication of real number. This algebraic structure forms a field. Similarly, C plus dot, C is the set of complex number with respect to usual addition of complex number, and dot is usual multiplication of complex number, forms a field. Similarly, the set of rational number with respect to usual addition of rational number and usual addition of usual multiplication of rational number forms a field. So these are the fields. So these are not the only fields. There are other examples also, and all these are infinite fields. Infinite means R is an infinite set, you know. Okay, C is an infinite set, Q is an infinite set. So these are infinite fields. What about Q root 2? Okay, so these are not the only fields. This is another field. Q root 2. What is Q root 2? That is the set of all the elements of this form. That is A plus B root 2, where root 2 is known, A and B are rational numbers. Of course, with respect to the usual addition and multiplication of real number, again forms a field. So this field is strictly bigger than Q and strictly smaller than R. Okay, so this Q root 2 is strictly bigger than Q and strictly smaller than R. There are infinitely many fields of this type. You can replace root 2 by root 3, root 7, root means by square root of any prime number. Then it's a field. Okay. So are there only infinite fields? No, there are finite fields also. So what is a finite field? So the most simplest example is ZP, where P is a prime. That is the set of residue clauses modulo P, set of integers modulo P. That is 0 bar, 1 bar, 2 bar, P minus 1 bar. So I am not going into the detail of the elements of ZP. You are already aware of this Zn group, right? So this is ZP. ZP is a field under addition modulo P and multiplication modulo P. Okay. In general, this is a result actually. So what is the result? If F is any field which is finite field, okay, then the number of elements, finite field means number of element is finite. So this is the result. So let F be a finite field with q elements, then q is equal to p to the power n for some prime p and some natural number. Okay, means every finite field has p to the power n elements for some prime p and some integer, some positive integer n. Right? For example, this is depicted here Z5 for simplicity. Z5 is a field under addition modulo 5 and multiplication modulo 5. Okay, so this is the composition table for addition modulo 5 and multiplication modulo 5. For example, how to add 3 and 4, that is 3 modulo 5 and 4 modulo 5. So adding this gives you 7 modulo 5. So 7 modulo 5 means just 2 modulo 5, that is 2 bar. Similarly here, 4 into 3, 4 modulo 5, 3 modulo 5, multiplied gives you 12 modulo 5. That means this is 2. That means dividing by 5 gives you what you remain with, what is the remainder. So that's remainder you have to write. Okay. So this is the composition table. You can form very easy. Okay. So I hope up to here it is clear to everyone. Please write in chat. Okay, fine. Okay, so now let us see the definition of, general definition of, abstract definition of a vector space. Okay, so what is a vector space? A non-empty set V is said to be a vector space over a field of, already you have seen what is a field, over a field of, if in V there is defined an operation plus, again I am saying, in V there is defined an operation plus means for some elements addition is a function from V cross V to V, right? So in V means suppose some subset of S is taken, some subset S of V is taken, and then plus is a mapping from S cross S to V. Then we say that this is an operation in V. When we say that it is an operation on V, means it is a mapping from V cross V to V. So these terminologies will be clear step by step. Okay, so don't worry. So a non-empty set V is said to be a vector space over a field of in V. If in V there is defined an operation plus called addition and an operation dot in F cross V to V. I am writing and an operation dot in F cross V to V. That means I am considering subset of F cross V, right? Because I am writing here in. In means some elements may be skipped, right? So dot in F cross V to V. So again, meaning is same. A dot is a some function from some subset of F cross V to V. So it's called scalar multiplication, such that number one, x plus y belongs to V. That is the closure axiom. See this. So as long as you say that x plus y belongs to V, that means plus is a binary operation, plus is a mapping from V cross V to V. So either you say that plus is a mapping from V cross V to V, then you don't write this one. Okay. And if you write in this way, then you need to check the closure axiom. Okay. So that's okay here. Right. That's okay here. No problem. Okay. And second one is called commutative law with respect to addition. That is x plus y is y plus x. Why I am writing this one first? Because later on it will be clear. So no need to write here the terms again. That is 0 plus x bar. Because already you just proved that it is commutative. Then no need to write 0 plus x. Because x plus 0 is 0 plus. Third one is associative rule. Right? And fourth one is the concept of zero vector, existence of zero vector. So there exists an element 0 bar in V such that adding to any vector gives you the same vector. So that is, meaning is that 0 bar works as an identity. That is no change in the vector. Whatever, in whatever vector you add this vector, giving no change. That is, x is not going to change adding this 0 vector. So that is the concept of identity. Similarly, because 0 bar is now the identity. So what about the inverse? Inverse means adding any vector x to adding to any vector x another vector gives you the 0 vector. So that is the concept of inverse element. So given any vector x in B, there is a vector minus x in B such that adding to x gives you the identity vector, that is 0 element of B. Okay, so what you see, this B1, B2, B3, B4, B5 means B plus is an abelian group, right? So from group theory, you remember this? All these 5 properties are satisfied. That means this B is a group with respect to addition. So B plus is an abelian group. And because this plus associates to the elements x and y of B, x is also element of B and y is also element of B. That means this plus associates the elements of B only. That is, this plus is an internal operation, right? So this is called internal composition or internal operation. Okay, so another one, that is V6, is alpha x belongs to B. What we say? We say dot. So I am not writing here dot. Either you write here dot, so we just skipped what I said. Here dot is hidden. So alpha dot x belongs to V. That is, alpha x belongs to V for all alpha in F and x in B. So this is called B is closed with respect to the scalar multiplication. What I am doing? We are doing here multiplying this scalar to the vector x, right? This scalar x is not of B. This is from the field F. So this is an external element of the external element from B, right? And we are associating, we are multiplying to the vector x and giving you the vector B. So that's why this is called external composition or external operation, right? So the sixth property is B is a vector. Then multiplying alpha beta together, then multiplying to x is the same as multiplying x to beta, then multiplying by x is the same. So this is a associative type rule, right? And this one is called distributive rule. This is also distributive rule, right? That is, if alpha and beta are scalar, then alpha plus beta x is alpha x plus beta x. Similarly, alpha x plus y is alpha x plus alpha y. So you can say here the scalar multiplication here scalar multiplication distributes over vector addition, and here what is happening? Here the scalar addition distributes over what you say, scalar multiplication, right? And the last one is also very important. One x is x, so you cannot deduce this last property from the others. Okay, so we will show an example. V1 to V9 cannot deduce this one, okay, cannot deduce this one. So this is also very important. So all these 10 properties must satisfy, then we say that V is a vector space. Okay. So I hope this definition is clear to everyone. Is it okay? Okay, good. Now, these are remarks. The elements of the field F are generally denoted by alpha, beta, gamma, A, B, C, and we call it scalars. And the elements of the set V, which forms a vector space, are called the vectors, and generally denoted by small x, small y, small z, R, U, V, W, etc. Right? So this is the first example of a vector space. The set of all n tuples of scalars, that is n tuples with entries from a field F, denoted by Fn, forms a vector space over F under the operations of coordinate wise addition and coordinate wise multiplication. What does it mean? That is, suppose that x is a n tuple a1, a2, an, and y is also a n tuple b1, b2, bn in Fn, right? In Fn. So Fn means, that means F cross F, that is the direct product, okay, Cartesian product, F cross dot cross F. How many times? It is n times. That is, A1 is from F, A2 is from F, an is also from F. So in short, it is written as Fn. Okay, fine. And suppose alpha is any scalar in F, Then how to define the addition operation, plus operation? So plus operation is defined as you just add the component wise. So this plus is not the usual plus, okay? So in some books you will find written like this, plus. For example, if you see Hofmann and Kunze, right? Linear algebra by Hofmann Kunz, then there is operation depicted like this, okay? So this plus is not the ordinary plus, not the usual plus of field. But here A1 plus B1. So this plus is from field. This plus is from field because this is an element of the field F, this is an element of the field F, and this plus F plus dot is a field. That means plus is the operation of addition from the field. Similarly, second one is added to second one, nth one is added to nth one. And scalar multiplication means if you multiply by any scalar alpha, that is the element of the field F, to any n tuple of vectors a1, a2, an, gives you multiply each and every coordinate, each and every component of the vector x, of the n tuple x, that is alpha a1, alpha a2, and so on, alpha. So you can verify all the these 10 properties of the vector space are satisfied with respect to this vector addition and this scalar multiplication, right? So I hope it is clear to everyone. So let me share something else. Okay. Just wait. Yeah. Fine. Okay, so let us see another one, right? Okay, fine. So what we see here, this one. Okay, fine, right. So in particular, if f is replaced by r and 2 is n is replaced by 2, that is r2. So this r2 means the set of vectors in the plane with respect to the usual addition, component wise addition and component wise scalar multiplication. So R2 is a vector space, right? R2 is a vector space. Okay. So this R2 is a vector space. Similarly, R3, that is the set of all the vectors in the space in 3 dimensions, is also a vector space over R. So when we say that R2 is a vector space over R, that means we have understood, oh, okay, that's why this usual addition of vector addition, that is coordinate wise addition and coordinate wise scalar multiplication. When we say that R3 is a vector space over R, we will understood, oh, these two operations. C2 is a vector space over C. Again, the operations of coordinate wise vector addition and coordinate wise addition and coordinate wise scalar multiplication. So you can note that if in R2, suppose 1, 2 and 2 minus 1 are two vectors, then what is the sum rule? That is add one first coordinate to first coordinate, second coordinate to second coordinate. Similarly, the scalar multiplication means minus 5 multiplied to this vector 1 minus 4 means multiply by minus 5 to the first coordinate and then to the second coordinate, and you have this. Similarly, in C2, addition means this one, the first coordinate is added to first one, second one is added to second one, and similarly the scalar multiplication means minus I will be multiplied to the first and second both. So minus 2i, 1 minus. So you see every field F is a vector space over itself because R2 is a vector space over R. R3 is a vector space over R. Let us reduce 2. So this is R1. So R1 R1 is a vector space over R. That is one tuple. One tuple means just a real number. Just the elements of F. That means every field F is a vector space over itself. For example, R over R. So written like this. That is R is a vector space over R. Q is a vector space over Q. C is a vector space over C, and so on. For the finite field, Zp over Zp is a vector space. Okay, so the second remark is the vectors in Fn may be written as column vectors also, because n tuple may be written like A1, A2, An rather than this row wise. In row you have to put comma, but if you write in the column, then no need to put comma, right? Just A1, A2, A3 and so on. So this is the more appropriate way to write the n tuples. So you can visualize the set of n tuples as the set of column vectors, n column vectors. That is, this is a n cross 1 matrix. So Fn can be regarded as set of all n cross 1 matrices over F, right? So this is another way of looking Fn in the form of set of matrices, column matrices having n components. Okay, so third one is the same thing what I said earlier. This one is another example, again R2, which is not a vector space over R under the following operation. The same set R2 is a vector space with respect to coordinate wise addition and coordinate wise scalar multiplication. But changing the operation, R2 need not be a vector space. So let us see what are the operations. So first operation is defined in this way, that is A1 plus B1, and in place of second, it is not A2 plus B2, it is A2 plus twice of B2. And the scalar multiplication is defined in this way. How it is defined? That is alpha times U is equal to multiply by the scalar to first coordinate and leave second coordinate as it is, right? So leaving the second coordinate as it is may create some problem. So in first instance, it is clear that it may or may not be a vector space. Definitely you cannot say, right? Because it is not the usual coordinate wise addition and coordinate wise scalar multiplication. But two things are clear. That is, this V is equal to R2 is closed with respect to these two operations, with respect to addition defined in this way and the scalar multiplication defined in this way. So clearly, U plus V is in R2 and alpha U is in R2. R2 means the first coordinate is from real number, second coordinate is also real number. First coordinate is real number, second coordinate is also real number. So U plus V is also in R2, alpha U is also in R2. Thus R2 is closed under addition and scalar multiplication defined in this way. Okay, defined in this way. This is not the usual coordinate wise addition and coordinate wise scalar multiplication. So let us see what properties of vector space fails here. So first one is commutative.
Excuse me, sir.
You can check. Commutative law does not hold because you see U plus V is this one and V plus V.
Excuse me, sir.
Right? U plus V means first coordinate is added to first and second coordinate is added to second bit twice. That is A2 plus 2A2. Similarly, B plus U is B1 plus A1 but B2 plus 2A2. So this is okay. This is fine because A plus B is the same as B plus A. They are real numbers. But A2 plus 2B2 is not equal to B2 plus 2A2. So if it is equal, that means A2 is equal to B2. That is, if A2 and B2 are not same, then you don't have U plus V is B plus U, right? But commutative law says that U plus
Excuse
V
me,
is
sir.
plus U for every UV, right? But here is condition. If A2 is not B2, then you don't have U plus V is equal to V plus U. Thank you. Okay, fine. So commutative law fails. Similarly, you can check associativity fails. Similarly, you can check this existence of zero element fails. That is, there is no zero element, and because there is no zero element, there is no inverse, right? And you can check scalar multiplication properties. So this will follow, this will follow, this will follow, but this is not going to follow. Okay, so you can check. This is going to fail. Okay. So I hope today you have learned a lot of things from the vector spaces, at least the idea of abstract idea of vector space, example of vector space, and how to prove not a vector space. If